All right, so Samantha, let's get started here. Just most recently here this week, former President Trump has now endorsed your competition, Dave Taylor. Maybe not a surprise, of course, because he's the Republican running. Right. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I expected it. David Taylor's ran his whole campaign on the Trump platform, so it just seems like it's the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm. And talk to me a little bit about, we were talking about it off camera here. You wanted a debate.
Absolutely.
You were willing to debate.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think about that not happening, Dave Taylor not wanting to debate? And he was very candid with me. He said it just wouldn't benefit me. I don't feel like I need it. I'm running a strong, good campaign. What do you say to that, or to the voters who are wondering why you guys aren't debating?
Well, it's a disservice to the voters in our region. There's a couple things about them refusing to debate. First is we live in a very red district, a very alleged red district, because I say no district is red or blue. It depends on how much work you're willing to put into it. So being in a district that has leaned red, because as Democrats, we've lacked putting the attention to the people in Southern Ohio, he feels safe. You know, he's got this sense of, I don't need to debate because I'm going to win this anyway. Doesn't matter what my positions are, I'm going to win this. So, although I respect David because I've talked to him often, we have an amicable relationship. You know, we joke around with each other when we see each other, but I do think it's a cowardly way out of any politician that won't debate their opponent. The people deserve it. It's not about us. It's not about whether you feel comfortable debating or it's not going to benefit you. It's not meant to benefit you. It is meant to get your statements out there, your opinions out there, your issues out there. And anybody does it, I just think it's cowardly.
You kind of went there a minute ago, and you were talking about Ohio being labeled a red state, and specifically your district that you're running for. I was reading in a recent interview, you said, quote, "I know that a lot of folks down here are Republicans by anger rather than policy."
Thank you.
What did you mean by that?
I mean that I travel all 15 and a quarter counties. I am a Southern Ohioan, lifelong. And when we had our steel mills and when we had the mines over in Meigs County, Jackson County, we leaned blue because, you know, unionization, which I'm very proud of my union endorsements. And when those things closed down, the Democratic Party left our region, and Republicans swept in. They didn't do a whole lot for us. You can check the records, you know. But so people became angry, and Republicans are masters of cueing emotions. So when here's the way I feel about it. When people are fearful, they get angry. When you're fearful of not having dinner on the table or gas in your cars, you become an angry person. And I'm not saying all Republicans, because I love a true conservative, but when they see that in folks, I think Donald Trump is a perfect example. They exacerbate that anger. And as a Democrat, I'm moving through there to say, you know what? I know how you feel. Been there, done it. I know, I have empathy for your situation. Once I talk to folks, it tamps down that anger, and they say, you know, that's the person that cares about me. So yeah, it's not policy, it is anger.
Dave Taylor said to me in our recent interview that he's not a typical politician, and that he's a very successful businessman, and he really has no reason to want to get involved in politics the way that it can be at times when it is so divisive. And he really pointed to being part of the Appalachian community, at least that's the way he grew up. What do you say to that community specifically who's going to endorse him because he comes from there?
Well, I don't know how much David does come from that Appalachian community, and that's the way we pronounce it. Not Appalachian, Appalachian. But you know, I don't know that they will. You know, typically they have in the past endorsed Republican candidates, but if you notice, I am one of the highest decorated union endorsed candidates in the state of Ohio. I went out Sunday to the United Mine Workers 1857 over in Meigs County, Vinton County. I went over Mine 1 and Mine 2, and those folks aren't saying I'm going to vote Republican just because. They look at the candidate and they know who is really Appalachian. I grew up down along the river. I had a blue-collar father. And I get emotional about this, so I'm not going to. But, you know, we were middle, upper blue-collared folks until a scaffolding broke on my father that worked down at the Killen station near Ripley. And we quickly became impoverished. So I think when folks hear my story, they know that I know their experiences. So, you know, we'll see how that shakes out. But, you know, here's one thing that I'm telling folks, especially in regards to J.D. Vance. Some people made me some logos, and it says, in a world of fake hillbillies, be authentic, H-I-C-K. And so I've got that label, and I love it. I'm running with it.
Talk to me, you talk about being so down to earth, and as an EMT, you have no doubt seen firsthand the devastation of the opioid epidemic and drugs as a whole throughout our communities. When you hear Republicans or your opponent being stricter at the border, do you support that, and why or why not?
Well, here's what I will tell you about that. I get very upset when it's election time and we hear border and we hear fentanyl. And those folks use those as talking points, as hot topics. I don't think that they have any interpersonal stake or relationship in it. And being a young EMT in the mid-90s when the pill mills opened in Southern Ohio, I was on the front lines. I remember my first Oxycontin overdose. It was a young man. We coded them back in those days. You didn't have Narcan. You know, everybody didn't we had it on the trucks. So we went into the home and the fellow was on the floor and everybody at the party took off. So we went ahead and we worked him, and when he woke up from the Narcan, I said, what are you doing? You know, we were about the same age, young 20-ish something. And he said, I was just partying. I was, you know, going to the military, Marines next week, and just wanted to have a good time. 2 weeks later, I coded him again. Oh, I'm sorry, a month later, and he was gone. We didn't bring him back. So that haunts me. Anybody in EMS, fire, police, law enforcement, all have PTSD to a certain degree. And the opioid crisis itself, what it is in homes in Southern Ohio. You know, Brad Wenstrup, after I did not win in 2022, we had a conversation afterwards, and he had talked about the people in Congress working tirelessly to fix this. And I told him, Brad, those aren't the people who are working tirelessly. It's EMS, it's law enforcement, and it's the families of those people that every night they think, am I going to get a call from the morgue or the sheriff's department that they've been arrested again? And, you know, they hope for the latter. So when it comes to this time of year, I get really upset because I have a personal stake in curing this issue, not just using it as a talking point.
And is that maybe where you guys find common ground, that you do want to close the border so that we don't have drugs like that coming into our communities here in Southern Ohio?
We do have a commonality in that, but we have different takes on how to do that. You know, I look at the wall as more of a metaphor for keeping people separate from one another than I actually do a physical wall. Because as General Patton said, fortification are the monuments to the stupidity of man. If people can climb mountain ranges and get across to oceans, they'll get past anything that a man builds. So immigration reform, of course, it relies on human beings. What stops human beings? Human beings. So we need to increase immigration judges. We need to put more border patrol out there. And we also have technology. That's one thing that bothers me about a whole wall. You know, we've got drones, we've got airship. That is the way that we handle immigration reform. Okay. But yes, it's close to my heart because of the fentanyl and opioids.
From immigration, let's go to another thing that impacts so many of us, and that's our schools. You say that you want to put more money into our public schools. Of course, that sounds great. It's what I think every administrator, every teacher, maybe parent wants to hear, but how do you plan to do that? Where do we get the money?
Well, we have to overhaul the system. You know, unlike my opponent who says on his website that he wants to defund and dismantle the failed Department of Education and teachers' unions, I think we have problems, but we need to overhaul it. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So I think we need to protect public education at all costs. You know, I'm not in office yet. I can't tell you which budget we would take that out of. I am incredibly supportive of our Department of Defense, but we do spend a lot of money there. So that's maybe some place that we could take a look at and see where we'd get that funding. But we have to get it. You know, this isn't something that we can play around with, because if we go to the voucher program for our public students, if we go there, we're going to hurt our urban and rural poor first. And for me, you know, of course, I'm a rural candidate. That would be detrimental and disastrous for those kids out in rural America.
Yeah, who are already so many of them struggling.
They are, and we don't have enough parochial schools. We don't have enough private schools to house the students that, you know, that they're wanting to hand out vouchers and give opportunities for. It's just a system that's set up to fail. It's a system to give more money to the kids who are already at those schools. So what happens is the school will raise the price of the tuition. The voucher will cover the amount that normally the tuition will be, and the families can afford to pay that little bit off the top. So who suffers? Rural America.
Abortion, of course, is such a, it's a deciding factor, let's be honest, with a lot of voters. I know you want to protect reproductive rights. Right now, here in Ohio, you can get an abortion if it's before 21 weeks and 6 days. Are you okay with that, or do you want the laws to be even more lenient?
I want them to be more lenient. I am endorsed by Abortion Forward, and I'm proud of that. You know, as Americans, we pride ourselves on freedom. You know, back in the days, I could have been a Ronald Reagan Democrat, I believe. But today, you know, we're stripping away women's rights. Think about that. Think about freedom. If you are willing to vote to take that away from a woman, I'm telling you, everybody else's freedom down the line, it'll happen eventually. So no, we need safe access to abortion, and I am very lenient with the laws on that.
And the way it stands now, then, still not good enough in your opinion?
Not good enough in my opinion, and it needs protected federally. It needs to be codified into law, because I don't know one person that's had an abortion that was happy about it. I don't know one person that is pro-abortion, because I don't even think that's a word. But it is, it's an emotional situation, and it's a decision that a family, their doctor, you know, and the Lord, you know, should make, not government, not the people in Washington, D.C.
You were talking about before that, and of course 2 years ago, that you lost to a Congressman. Wenstrup only got 25% of the vote. District 2, as we know, leans overwhelmingly red and Republican. So what made you decide to want to run again, and what makes you think you can get it done this time?
Well, running against Congressman Wenstrup, you know, that was a different ball game. When I came into this, I did it simply because I love the people of the district, and because we weren't being served. And the reason I think that is because, you know, Brad's from Cincinnati, although he's got a home in Hillsborough. He can't understand what it's like to be one of us. And so when I ran that race, I was not the darling of the Democratic Party. You know, I was a Democrat, but I was still a Southern Ohioan. So we didn't get any attention down there. And for me being a newcomer, I had to prove myself. So Democrats don't usually run twice. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm not a quitter. You know, I'm a strong woman. So I'm going to do it again, and I'm glad I did, because everything's shifted. You know, I basically ran that campaign on my own. This time, like I told you earlier, I'm one of the highest decorated union endorsed candidates in the state of Ohio. I've got a team behind me. We have an open seat, and I'm a person that goes to 15 and a quarter counties regularly. I don't go out there to talk to people. I go out there to listen to people, and that means a lot. And like I said, even though we might be outnumbered, there might be more Republicans, there's a lot of issues that are not sitting well, which one is abortion and the other is gerrymandering. So this is the perfect time to run for a Democrat. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in 2024.
The bottom line for all those people out there who have been labeled a red state, Republicans, your final message to them is what come Election Day?
Look at the person, not the party. You know, and split that ticket. I don't want anybody changing their party affiliation. You know, I have a deep respect for conservatives, and I want them to know this as well. You know, if I have a barbecue, I'm going to invite you. I want your vote. I want you to be a part of what's happening here. I think your party has fallen out of order. I think the MAGA movement is not the Ronald Reagan era Republicans that I know. And so, you know, if you can't vote for me, don't vote against me. That's one thing I'm asking folks. But no, you know, jump on over. Jump on over until you can get your house in order. And then maybe in 26, come back and say, you know what, we've got a clean slate. We don't have any MAGA candidates. We have true fiscal conservatives running for this office, and get your party back to where, you know, we can legislate. Our Congress was the second least effective Congress in modern history. And that's because of the division and the polarization. I don't want to do any of that. I want to heal this nation. You know, I want to reach across the aisle. You know, I want us to get back to where we put America in that place of unity that we used to be. And I keep referencing Ronald Reagan, but when I was a young kid in the 80s, I really looked up to that administration. I knew that we knew who our enemies were. We knew that Russia was a threat to our country. We didn't have this inner conflict, you know, within our country, and we have to get out of that, and we have to get out of it quick.
Very well. Thank you so much for taking time for me, and I appreciate just learning more about you as a candidate.